Hello guys, we're gonna start here in just a minute. Just gonna share the link. Alright, we're gonna see how well the internet holds up here through the PS4. Hi Gray Man, how you doing? So just a heads up for anyone watching this, this is a test stream. I just moved to a new place. Luckily I did get internet. It's technically the same as the last place I was at, but it's a little different format. I will say, from the two categories of stream quality, one of them was definitely like good. The other one was still rough, and I couldn't get it to change. It was, I believe, I think it was the upload speed. I forgot which one of the two it was, but it was kind of the opposite one on streams that on the other streams before, where one was lower, so something like that. But I'm hoping that it doesn't really affect it this much. I'm doing good. Hi, Eli. So, my goal with this stream is to see pretty much if the internet here can hold up a reasonable length of streaming, at least as much as it did in the last place. Now, even if doing it wirelessly doesn't work, I'll see if maybe I could get an Ethernet connection to work with it if all else fails. I also, at some point, am going to test it with my laptop streaming. Because if this blows up in my face, but the laptop streaming's still solid, I may just switch to that completely and just forego PS4 streaming. Okay. We're just doing match requests. I had a couple already picked out in Discord, so we'll kick off with those. These are just whatevers. Oh yeah, that Neo Geo wrestling game you shared. I'll do run-in, sure. We're just gonna leave lots of this stuff on default. I guess we can explore some of the alternate rings that are in the game a little bit. We've seen the New Japan one quite a bit. We'll put the Stardom there. You know, we don't really see... We'll just keep it USA Dome. Refs, we'll leave it with Red Shoes. Music, we'll experiment with different music. We've heard the Fire Pro Wrestling theme lots of times. We'll look through Spitting Panther. Alright. I think the first one said was Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero, so we'll throw that in. I forgot to fix Hayabusa. Oh well. But yeah, I only mentioned that inner stuff because if the stream disconnects out of nowhere, I'm gonna take it as a sign that the internet's pretty weak. So I don't want anyone to get like too attached to what's what's gonna be streaming here, because I'm probably not gonna like like restart it or anything, because I don't know. I don't want to just fight with this constantly if it's not gonna. It's wireless right now. I just did it default because we put the internet stuff like the modem and the Wi-Fi thing in the living room, and I'm streaming. I'm doing this in a separate room. The Ethernet cable I have is pretty long. I mean, technically I could try to stretch it into the room, but it's a haggly mess, and I don't really want to. I could move it to my room too, but I don't really want to have to do all that crap if I can get by with wireless fine. At least on par to what it was at the apartment. But yeah, like I said, if we do a decent amount of matches in this and it goes fine, I think we don't have to worry about nothing. And I'll still test it on my laptop too. I'll probably do another Choose Your Own Game Venture stream. I don't know if I'll do that today though. I might save that for like a different day. Let's just see how this one goes here. Yeah, because I don't know how long the stream's gonna be. It's just gonna. I'm probably shoot for the length of around a normal TWN episode of something, if not longer.
¡Viva México! ¡Órale! ¡Fight!
Ooh, nice. Slipping around there. But yeah. Yeah, it's always unfortunate when arcade games don't get console ports. But, you know, with the way tech is now, you can get away with getting, like, the ROMs and stuff. But it's never as easy as you might think, though, all the same. Yeah, this is a match request stream for anyone joining in. We got a couple already from the Discord. This one and one after this one. Then after that, it's just whoever wants to see who. And it doesn't have to be strictly like only TWN guys. I do have wrestlers in this game that haven't been converted if people wanted to see them as well.
Keep up!
Jackknife pin.
Whoa.
Oh, here comes Dude Love here.
Minutes gone.
I haven't got a chance yet. Big drop kick.
Keep up! Keep up!
Already going on a run with a roll up.
Ready.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Viva Mexico! Yep! One, two.
10 minutes gone.
Play.
Yeah, hopefully if all goes well with this, we can kind of get back to a normal schedule of streaming.
Play.
Let's crash Holly. Oh. Yeah, I could have. I mean, N64 definitely has a control scheme for that stuff, that's for sure.
Viva Mexico! One, two.
Cleared the rope surprisingly with that one.
Play.
Steel gets suplexed out of the ring.
1, 2, 3, 4.
One. There.
Oh wow.
One, two. One, two.
Ah, true. Oh.
Wah!
Ah, frog splash.
One, two.
Ooh. Oh. Wow.
Viva Mexico!
I might have to update that Rey Mysterio because there's a move I have that I haven't put him on yet, where it's a post version of a 619, and you really should have that. Now we got next is an elimination match between Bulldog, Owen Hart, Pillman, and is it Neidhart? Yeah, Samurai Shodown. I remember. Yeah, that one. Yeah, I remember that one. Oh no, it's not Neidhart. It's Bret Hart. Neidhart's not involved in this. All right, let's go to this one. Red shoes. Let's do him. Lonely stage. We'll still do this at 60 just because of the way the thing can be sometimes. I remember that game breaking one we had a while back. Oh wow, interesting. It's kind of interesting to imagine an N64 Dead or Alive game. What would be the British Bulldog? Where would he be at? I forgot who has him. I think Star Fox does. Might be wrong. Maybe he's in a developmental thing. Yeah, which is interesting to think about because they have the controller for it. Well, I think Nintendo rubbed a lot of people the wrong way when they stuck with cartridge gaming as opposed to the disc that was coming on. It rubbed a lot of developers the wrong way, and they lost a lot of longtime partners to PlayStation because of it. I do remember that. There he is. Does he have any alternate outfits? Yeah, it's that one. That one. Let's do this one. Why not? And then Brett. Which we know is an FPOA. Alright, let's see how it goes. Yeah, well, 32X was a weird thing.
Pike! Ah! Ah!
Sorry, that was a pop. But yeah, I mean, that was the weirdest thing with that whole saga of Sega trying to add all these ports to the Genesis before actually releasing a console is that for
Keep up.
they went from like trying to stretch out the length of a console with add-ons to like jumping the gun on generational releases of their consoles. Like, I think that was the biggest downfall of Sega, is that they were either too impatient or waited too long. Like, they just couldn't. It's like they couldn't handle the idea of releasing their stuff around the same time as their competition. Like, they always had to do it earlier or later than their competition, and it ruined them both times. Like, the best thing they could have done is just do their shit at the same time. Like, they. Yeah, exactly. Like, why the fuck would you make a 32X game when you're already releasing the Saturn and your competition's coming out? I mean, I get that people were still playing Genesis games, but that's the key word, Genesis games, not 32X games. I mean, no one's gonna go out of the way to get a 32X port, but you either get a cheaper and still relatively decent Genesis port if there was one, or, you know, go with the Saturn one if they had a Saturn port around that time, because of how stingy they were with Saturn releases. Oh yeah, totally.
5 minutes.
I mean,
gone.
it's kind of funny, but the Sega CD, I think, ages better in hindsight, because the 32X, I mean, was just slightly better looking Genesis games, but the Sega CD at least tried to have some stuff. I mean, it was mostly schlock and didn't hold up well. A lot of stuff didn't hold up well at all, but at least there was something more on the innovative side of things. But instead of trying to do all those cheap add-ons, they should have just focused on making a solid next console.
2.
Kinda. I mean, there was advances, but I mean, there were advances, but think of it like getting like an. It's like when they release a Last of Us Remaster edition for PS5 after getting it for PS4. Yeah, it looks better, but there's not like that much difference. Yeah. Ooh, counter. But those kind of like virtual styles, like the Star Fox games and stuff, like Super Nintendo was doing that style of games without any sort of add-ons or nothing. So it's not like Sega was like advancing anything.
Yeah.
10 minutes gone.
Interesting.
Keep up! Keep up!
I mean, I'm sure the 32X had some great games. I'm not gonna say that there wasn't high points with that add-on, but man, it's just so weird, like that they would go that far with all those add-ons to a system that was doing perfectly fine, and you really had no reason to. I mean. Because, in all honesty, instead of doing all that, they probably should have just focused on the Saturn and making that polished up. Which, wow, here's the thing, I never played a Saturn, so I can't say for sure, like, how much that stuff is bad or good. I just think the biggest problem that they had with the Saturn was that they ignorantly thought that releasing it earlier than people anticipated would give them advantage in sales. And it didn't, because no one was ready to buy it, because people wanted to wait to see how PlayStation would be. Some of the Sega people that were playing Genesis still were into their Genesis and didn't want to ditch that right away still. And barely any games were ready for it because all the developers were still working on games because they thought the system was going to come out in the fall and not in the fucking spring. So they barely had any games at launch. So if you were a big-time Sega person, if you got that Saturn, like, the most you could get is, like, a few games, and then you have to wait 6 fucking months. I mean, and I think it was released at a pretty high price, too. Like, it was not a standard pricing new console system at all. And then PlayStation came out with a reasonable price. It could play CDs, like, beautifully. Its CD audio system's like perfection, so you had that bonus, and it had a shit ton more games on it. So they won by a landslide, and then the N64 did come out eventually. And even though even though you could argue which is better, PlayStation or N64, but at least that system had some execution in there, even though if it was quirky as hell. Oh yeah, like, it's crazy. Like, one day I'll try one of my CDs out on it, but ooh.
Give up!
Oh yeah, totally. It did.
Give up!
And someone, I saw this in a video or something, but the perfect describe the difference between Saturn and PlayStation is Sega developed Saturn to be a 2D powerhouse with 3D capabilities, and Sony built the PlayStation for it to be a 3D powerhouse with 2D capabilities. And it really is like that, because if you look at the Saturn library, even the Japanese games that were made for it, which is a ton more than American games, it's definitely very 2D heavy. You know, you could tell they built it with the idea of it being more on the 2D side of things, but added more 3D stuff because they were starting to read the room that 3D was going to be the thing. But oh yeah, it was like the Super Nintendo and Sega games. Like, both companies did not anticipate that 16-bit would still be holding up super well, and even nowadays. I mean, I am starting to see the Rhapsody PS1 and N64 graphics start making a comeback in indie games, like especially like horror games and stuff. But
give up! Give up!
But those 16-bit look just ages so beautifully well. Like it was no wonder why people took their sweet ass time moving on to the next generation. Oh yeah, totally. Because they had no reason to. They started off with 3D. They had no reason to cave into 2D, especially after Nintendo screwed them over with that hybrid console they were gonna do, and they. Ooh, look at this simultaneously finishers. Oh, Owen's gone.
What?
Oh yeah, totally. I really, the only real downfall with PlayStation, at least at that time period, was one, it only had 2 controller ports, which, well, and that's not a big flaw, because other systems before had that. Oh, down to Bulldog and Brett. So, I wouldn't call it a big flaw. But I guess another flaw you could have with it, too, is, I don't know. Like, compared to Saturn, just having not a very good library, and here's the thing, a lot of its ports, compared to the PlayStation ports, didn't work as well. Oh, look at that, Brett gets the win. Ugh, those sound like rough games. Alright. So far, so good. Alright, those were the two pre-request matches, so if anyone wants to throw a match in there, let me know. Um, but yeah, I think the biggest issue with that whole thing was that when it came to the... Oh, that's another thing. When it came to the ports, the PS1 version of games just trumped the Saturn versions like 9 times out of 10. Like, it was very rare for a Saturn port to eclipse the PlayStation port. Ooh, interesting. Vader versus Andre or Vader versus Giant Baba? Ooh, man, any one of those would be good. Um, yeah, well, like, it goes back to what I heard, like, their focus, they were still doing 2D stuff. Oh yeah, that is true. Saturn was a funky system. They had all that extra stuff with memory card. They had a very inconsistent save system. Some you had a battery save, some you had needed cards, some you had passwords. It was really weird. Okay. Yeah, there might have been some. PlayStation for the most part. No, those were very, very new. So it probably took them a minute to get them all around, but probably not forever. Alright, so Andre, first of all. And not Andre, Vader. Who should he go against? You named quite a few good ones. Oh man, this is tough. I think we'll go with Andre. An SNES version of a 32X? Is that what you meant? Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think one of the biggest issues with the Saturn system too was the fact that they just they they didn't do connections right in terms of who they worked with. They just did whatever they just kind of did whatever they felt like doing and just did not pay attention to, they didn't read the room. That was Sega's biggest mistake. Like, they did their own thing and it was the worst. They made all the wrong decisions. Now Nintendo did their own thing too, but they executed it for the most part. They doubled down on it and they made it work. Saturn, I feel like Sega, they kind of tried to, like, oh yeah, we're gonna do disc like PlayStation, but we're gonna focus on 2D stuff. Oh, and we're gonna release it 6 months earlier than we said because, reasons. It's just like stuff like that's just like you're just shooting yourself in the foot. I get that. Andre, where was Andre? Was he here? Yeah, I think so, because I think he was drafted by TVF, yeah. Alright, let's see how this one goes. Yeah. Yeah, but that's the thing, like, that's the biggest issue with the Saturn. That's another thing. Because here's the other thing too to keep in mind is that Sega's CD, even though it was CD, a lot of its stuff was still kind of 2D. And for some reason, Sega thought, let's make a whole Sega CD-based system. of discs, but let's keep everything 2D. It's just like, you're not reading the room here. Like 3D, I mean, even in the 16-bit era, you had games experimenting with 3D-isms. Like that, I think that was Sega's biggest misstep, is the fact that they thought that after everything, like 2D was still the way to go, along with, you know, just not giving a fuck about game developers and their time frames and anything, and just doing where they felt like and just expected the results to show. Yeah, you know, let's look at the timelines. Let me bring them up on my. Let me look. So that would have been the 5th generation of games that we're talking about. You know, I'll look it up on Chrome instead. Alright, so I'm just looking up on Wikipedia. So the 5th generation era, also known as 32-bit era, 64-bit era, or the 3D era. Super, yeah, I bet.
Give up?
So the dating for this generation is October of '93 to March of 2006, which I think is when the last PS1 game was made, was in the mid-2000s. The best-selling home console was the PlayStation, followed by the N64 and Saturn. PlayStation also had a redesigned version called the PS1, which was launched in July 7th of 2000, which was a few months before the PS2. 2 actually. No, 4. It was 4. Let's see, some details.
Five minutes gone.
Break.
But yeah, I guess overall the area is credited to be known for video game industry's leap from 2D to 3D computer graphics, shift from cartridges to discs, first generation to feature internet connectivity, Sega Netlink for Sega Saturn, some internet stuff. Handhelds was characterized by significant fragmentation because the first handheld generation Sega No Land had a lifespan of just 2 years, and the Virtual Boy had a lifespan of less than 1. Neo Geo Pocket came out in '98, was dropped by SNK to focus on Neo Geo Pocket Color, and then Game Boy stuff. Time overlap too, between the 6th gen, because the 6th gen began when the Sega Dreamcast launched in Japan in November '98, while the American version of it came out, I think, like 9/9/99. The 5th gen ended with the discontinuation of PS1 on March 23rd, 2006, a year after the launch of the 7th generation. Yeah. Oh, Terry Taylor is helping Andre out. I guess Terry Taylor does not like Vader. So the 3D 64-bit era is most known for the rise of fully 3D polygon games. While there were games prior that had used 3D polygon environments such as Virtual Racing, Virtual Fighting Arcades, and Star Fox on Super Nintendo, it was in this area that things went to 30. Early efforts from the industry layer Sega and Nintendo saw the introduction of 32X and Super FX, which provided rudimentary, and all that.
10 minutes gone.
3D video games: Virtual Fighter 2 on Saturn, Tomb Raider on PlayStation and Saturn, Tekken 2, Crash Bandicoot, Super Mario 64, all that's... Or the Sega Neptune. I remember AGN talked a bit about that Sega stuff in an old video. Alright, so CD versus cartridge. After allowing Sony to develop a CD-based prototype system for them and a similar failed partnership with Philips, Nintendo decided to make the N64 cartridge-based system like its predecessor. Publicly, Nintendo defended this decision on the grounds that it would give games shorter load times than a compact disc and would decrease piracy. However, it also had the dubious benefit of allowing Nintendo to charge higher licensing fees, as cartridge production was considerably more expensive than CD production. Many third-party developers like EA Sports viewed this as an underhanded attempt to raise more money. Ironic, isn't it? EA would point that out. For Nintendo, many of them became more reluctant to release games on N64. That's why N64 library is on the small side, because a lot of third parties, you know, they were frustrated between N64 and Saturn. There's a reason why the PlayStation has a shit ton of games on it, because nobody wanted to work with Sega or Nintendo after all the fuckery that they were doing for them. The Nintendo decision also sparked a debate in the video game magazines as to which was better. The advantages they did say for CD were, one, large storage capacity allowing for a much greater amount of game content, 2, considerably lower manufacturing costs, making them much less risky for game publishers, and 3, lower retail prices, and 4, shorter production times. Its disadvantage compared to cartridge were considerable load times, their inability to load data on the fly making them reliant on the console RAM, and 3, the greater manufacturing cost of CD-ROM drives compared to cartridge slots, resulting in generally higher retail prices for CD-based consoles. But most of the contemporary systems use CD. A big example was the Final Fantasy series. I mean, when they switched from Nintendo to PlayStation, that was a huge win for them. Ooh, Tombstone. Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Ah, Andre gets the win. Tombstone in that elbow drop pin. Battery is low. I probably should plug it in. Let's see. What am I... Did I miss a chat box here? 2 years after the Dreamcast. 2. Yeah, it was, definitely. Alright. So, what next we have on the match request docket here? Let's see. Overview. Fifth generation was characterized by an unusually high number of console formats. More competing consoles comprised this generation than any other since the video game crash of '83. So the '90s was a very big time for video games. And it actually made a lot of magazines think there was going to be a second crash because there were so many. You can do the YWA guys. You can definitely throw those guys in. Oh yeah. Well, and they... Yeah, exactly, Eli. It's the money was a big thing there. So, for major consoles, the first of that gen was considered would be the 3DO, which came out in October of '93. So here, this is where things get important. But yeah, 3DO, of course, that failure stands for itself there. The Sega Saturn was released in Japan simultaneously with the 32X in November of '94. Although it would not have a North American release until 6 months later. It became Sega's most successful console in Japan and America and Europe. However, a disastrous launch in a retail price of $399 compared to PlayStation's $299 caused it to be a commercial failure, selling far fewer units than the Master System and Mega Drive. I mean, even the Master System outsold it. The PlayStation released in early December '94, was the most successful console of that generation, with attention given by third-party developers, more mature marketing campaign aimed at 20 to 30 age group, enabling it to achieve market dominance. It became the first home console to ship 100 million units worldwide. The N64, originally announced as the Ultra 64, was released in '96. The system's delays and use of the expensive cartridge form made it an unpopular platform among third-party developers. Several popular first-party titles allowed the N64 to maintain strong sales in the United States, but it was a distant second. And you got other consoles like the Amiga CD32, which came out in '93. Atari Jaguar came out in November '93. Yeah, exactly. Insanity, isn't it? Yeah, and they were wrong with the PS3 too. Yeah, the PS3, yeah, it's so weird, like how it bounces back and forth. Like, look at it. Like, the PS3 360 gen, PS3, yes, for the Saturn. Yeah, and keep in mind, they came out 6 months earlier than what they told publishers. So there was barely any games on it. It pissed so many people off. But yeah, because when the PS3 came out, they had a huge ass price, and the 360 was normal price, and it kept them even. And then the next gen Xbox One did the big thing, and PS4 kept